I just found this BMW M3 abandoned in a trailer. So I did what anybody else would have done. I bought it. And this might be the best deal anybody's ever gotten on one. That is, oh my dude.
Oh boy, this just got a whole lot more expensive.
If I can fix it.
When we hear the phrase abandoned vehicle, I think we might all think of the same thing. Super dusty, potentially rare, and hiding value. And I think that's exactly what I just found tucked away in this trailer.
They quite literally don't make them like this anymore.
It revs to 8,300 RPM.
One of the most iconic M cars ever made. Abandoned back in 2018, stuck in this trailer after suffering unknown mechanical damage. And after the property owner legally obtained ownership of the car, they began looking for someone dumb enough to sell it to.
It might be a little bit dusty just from it being in the trailer for so long.
After we struck a deal, got the paperwork done, car was officially mine. I feel like I should be excited, but I'm actually really nervous. I don't know anything about this car, and I just spent a lot of money, which we will disclose at the end, purely based off of a hope that I could fix this. But when I put in the key and hit the start button, that hope quickly began to fade. Now, of course I knew going into it that it was going to be broken, but I don't know still how broken is broken. But at this point, we're already past the point of no return, so there's only one thing to do, which is get it on the trailer, get it home, and figure out how bad it is, and if any of it is even savable.
So here it is. My new to me BMW E92 M3. And to be honest with you, this was not even on my radar in the slightest until it hit Marketplace, which is probably where it should have stayed, to be fair. For now, let's just look at the positive sides of this purchase that I probably shouldn't have made.
And if you think about it, there actually are a lot of positives. One of the best engines BMW ever made. The 4-liter S65 V8, it's an LCI model, which means updated electronics.
I just doxed myself.
And an exterior refresh, which can be seen with the taillights. OEM carbon upgrades like the roof and the wing and the mirror caps. And best of all, the interior looks and somehow even smells like it's never even been satted. And that's partially because it really hasn't been. But that still begs the question, what happened?
First thing we got to do is bore scope the cylinders. I just want to see if this motor is even savable, because we're going to try and do this on as good of a budget as we can.
Time to dig into this motor, and the deeper we dig, the more we're going to find. There are 5 key components that I need to be sure are okay, because if not, they're going to be really expensive and hard to replace. Starting out with the block. We need to check the block for scoring, and if it's scored, we're going to have to try to find a new one. Next up being auxiliary components like throttle actuators, oil coolers, and fueling components. Then the heads, the crankshaft, and most important, the oil pump. If this thing is damaged, it's $3,600 from BMW to get a new one with zero idea of when it's going to come in because it's back ordered. So first things first, let's check the cylinders with the bore scope, which is basically just a camera with a light on it that helps me see into places that you can't. And hopefully these cylinders are clean, because if they're not, I don't even know where I would find a new block, and I guarantee you it's not cheap.
Oh, that piston looks not good. So this is what the cylinder is supposed to look like. That's not what you want to see. That looks like some pretty deep scoring. We haven't even looked at the other side of this yet. Oh, yep. Oh, okay. Oh, that's not what you want to see.
Not exactly how I wanted this to start out. And my buddy Alex was next door, so I invited him over so he can have a look at it.
That's not good.
That is the first cylinder I just checked out.
Also, I just kind of find it funny that while I'm doing this and figuring out that my engine might be completely toast, it's also my birthday. So this was a nice surprise.
Oh, dude.
By this point, I'm sure you're catching on to the trend that things aren't looking good. But nothing could have prepared me for the last cylinder that we checked.
Oh God.
Really not good.
Oh my dude.
Wow.
That's some of the worst cylinder scoring I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah. Dude, what did they do to this poor engine?
Oh, dude, that's oil.
That's trashed all.
That is completely unusable. Oh my God. Oh my god.
I think it's safe to say we've taken our first massive loss of the project. And Alex actually brought up a good point that lines up with the service history that I was able to find about the car.
Not only did they probably run this thing low on oil, they were probably hammering this car while it was
Already scoring.
also low on oil, yeah.
In the most recent service that the car had, the customer stated that they were burning through over a quart of oil since their last visit, which I feel is a lot of oil to burn.
Would I have done that from putting it up on a trailer and then?
No.
No.
So that means somebody might have driven this car thinking that something minor was wrong for over 1,000 miles, which definitely could have caused this. But we still don't know what for sure actually did cause this. But if one thing is for sure, this motor has to come out of the car for us to figure it out.
I think we've got our work cut out for us.
So we know the block suffered a lot of damage. Surely there has to be something that can come out of this undamaged, because if there isn't, I think I'm about to be eating ramen noodles for every meal forever. First part to go is the exhaust, which means getting underneath the car that's sat for 8 years. So you can be sure that you're gonna find some gross stuff under there. But surprisingly, no oil leaks, which is weird for being, oh, never mind. There it is. Next to come out is the drive shaft, which I'm marking the center shaft bearing of to make sure I put it back in correctly when we put the car back together in the future.
Drive shaft.
And the easiest way to pull the engine out of the car is just going to be to remove the crash bar and pull the engine straight out with the transmission. Now there are a few AC lines that run through the front, so I turned off the camera and I'm just kidding. I did pay somebody to come by and discharge the system. And after almost crushing myself with the front crash bar, disconnecting every coolant and oil line that was attached to the engine itself, removing the entire wiring harness, and anything else attached to the engine, it's finally time to remove the engine so we can get closer to seeing how much of this car is still savable.
Dude, how smooth. There we go. Ooh. Now, there is kind of a trick to getting an engine on an engine stand. The best thing.
Slightly younger Ben was just about to tell you to basically put the engine stand on the engine and lower it down. Obviously. At this point, the brake cleaner is probably just getting to his head. But what he meant to say was, the best way to get an engine onto a stand and off the crane is to attach the engine stand, rotate the engine stand so that the feet are matching to the ones on the crane, and lower it down so you can safely roll it away.
See if she holds. All right. Oh boy.
And with the engine out, we can turn the M3 back into a roller to get it out of the way so we finally have some room to tear open this engine.
So, I just want to address the elephant in the room here with this motor. This is not reusable anymore, okay? This block is toast. I want this rebuild to be more of a restoration of this car, to bring this car back from the grave that it was sitting in, which was a trailer. I just want this car to make its return to being on the road again better than it ever was when it was first put on the road, especially because it is a low mile, high spec car.
Now, I understand that's a pretty high aspiration, but I do have plans already in motion to make that happen. But until then, let's finally figure out what we have that's usable. Obviously, we know the problem is internal, so all of our auxiliaries are definitely going to be okay. So for the first time, a check mark on our list here. I'm also glad that we don't have to pay for coils. And these aren't any coils, these are special coils. These are both an ignition coil and an individual knock sensor for each cylinder, which can help signal to the car's computer to adjust ignition timing and prevent severe internal engine damage, which I understand is kind of funny for this situation, but listen, it's probably not the coils that did this. And I also opened up the valve covers to look at the cams, and they looked absolutely flawless. So we know the problem's not there, which pretty much puts a nail in the coffin at the bottom end. Almost literally, which you'll find.
Hey, and that's why we have that there.
I'm starting to understand why this car was stuck in the trailer for so long. It seems like no matter what I touch on this, apart from a few things, there's just damage everywhere. And we're about to find out if the final two pieces, the crankshaft and the oil pump, can be saved. Because if not, I'm looking for an entire new motor.
Oh my goodness. Do you see what I am seeing in here? Someone has opened this engine already. Oh, and the oil pickup tube is just full of crap. Oh my God. See how that rod cap is just black and blue? That bearing spun? Anymore?
This could not have gone any worse. At least that's what I thought.
This had a spun bearing in the rear. Oh, look at the bluing on the crankshaft. Oh my gosh. This is a lot worse than I thought it was gonna be.
A total engine failure. We can pretty much say the crankshaft and the oil pumps are probably done, which I later found out is definitely the case. You can definitely remanufacture the crankshaft, but at this point, it just doesn't make any sense to do.
That rod is loose. That rod is loose. See how it says 4 on that rod cap right there? And there's red on the rod bolts. This engine definitely has been opened before. I don't know, did somebody try to get the job done preventatively and it failed? Like, why? What the heck? And this is the oil pump, by the way, right here. And if you look in here, I mean, look at this. That is a piece of rod bearing material right there. A large one at that. And that is why our cylinders look the way that they look. And this engine is 110% no longer reusable whatsoever. So I'm gonna have to go ahead and find another one.
While I was sitting there contemplating my life decisions, I found something else in the engine that I'd completely missed before.
What? That was just chilling. What is that even to?
You can even see it if you go back in the video sitting on top of the oil pump. So this definitely confirms that somebody was inside this engine before.
Oh my God. It's the freaking oil pickup tube bolt. Just chilling right there. Did it break or did it fall out? Why? This doesn't make any sense. This whole car doesn't make any sense. Clearly, they weren't paying attention because they lost a bolt to the oil pan. But secondly, this was probably just chilling in the oil pan. What else do we have in the oil pan?
Obviously, this entire engine is a mystery, and there's no way to tell based on the damage whether or not they were trying to fix something preventatively or possibly even hiding something that they already knew was a problem. Either way, I want to see what the rod bearings look like, if there's any left, because despite owning a Subaru in the past, I've actually never seen a spun rod bearing before.
This is gonna be insane.
Yeah, that heat on that crank though already just in that area is just pretty bad. Yeah,
Where is the rod bearing? Where is the, oh yeah, there it is. It's spun completely. And it's sitting in the, yeah. Sweet. Well, I can't even get these things off the crankshaft. Good lord.
And that is because they have welded themselves to the crankshaft. Now later on I did strip the entire motor completely, and I was able to remove all the components, and look at this. There is absolutely nothing savable. And it's times like this that I feel like maybe sometimes I'm a little too optimistic.
For now, let's just look at the positive sides of this purchase that I probably shouldn't have made.
And just for a second, I'm starting to think maybe there aren't any positives. We're buried beneath all the broken parts that make up the heart of this car, which means now I'm stuck trying to find a good motor. But after about 3 weeks of searching, 9 different motors, I actually found a healthy one. So after the engine man came to drop it off, collect every dollar that I had, and subtly judge my shop, we might be looking at the solution to get this car back on the road.
We found one. Fragile. Must be German.
I think now's a pretty good time to do the classic YouTube thing and ask, if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button and leave a like to let the algorithm know that you love broken BMW content.
With headers. I didn't think it had headers on it. Oh, and a free ratchet strap. It's been a long time since I've unplasticed a motor from a crate. Fingers go first when cutting the plastic because I don't mind cutting my finger, but I do mind cutting a wiring harness. Finger heals itself. Wiring harness does not.
Yeah, wiser words have never been said. And if you caught that, yeah, this is not the first motor I have unplasticed. Believe it or not, the very first car I owned, which was also a V8, I ended up rebuilding as well, which was actually one of the most fun times I've ever had with a car in my life. And ever since then, I've worked up from there, cutting my ST's front bumper off in the driveway, learning how to tune, buying a BRZ, modifying that, And almost coming full circle back just makes this even more special. And I guarantee you, younger me never would have thought I'd be owning an M3, let alone doing an entire engine rebuild on one. I'm extremely thankful because doing all of that has led to all of this. And I'm happy to report that the engine came back with really good compression numbers. I'm also happy to report that all of the cylinders are super clean, no scoring whatsoever, which was harder to find than you would imagine. Always ask for pictures when you're buying off eBay. And boy, was it not cheap, but it was worth it. This means we are 100% good to proceed with the engine, and I don't have to send it back, which means taking my soon-to-be coffee table off the engine stand.
Gloves, man. Can't ratchet my strap. Ah, dude, little engine thing. I bought this to help me get the trans out when we pulled the motor. And now it's a perfect engine cart. Look at that. Engine away. It's time for another engine to go on the stand. Hopefully one that stays in the car.
I may have had a good plan for getting the engine on the stand, but I do not have a good plan for getting the engine off the pallet.
I'm going to swing this engine forward, lower it down, move the jack back, hoist it up again, swing it forward, put it down, and do that as many times as I can until the wheels are on the ground completely, because I don't know how else I'm gonna get this off the pallet.
A sentence you never want to hear in a shop for 500, please.
Let me get the last, oh, well now the wheel's stuck. That was not pretty, and it was also at the same time not the stupidest thing I've ever done, but I didn't have a choice. Sometimes you gotta improvise. But we're good now. Everything is fine. All right, so this is gonna be the new S65 that is going to be the engine that revives this car. It's not as simple as just dropping it straight into the car. We do have to do a little bit of work to it beforehand. So that means we are refreshing internals of the engine. We're gonna be doing things that I've never actually done to an engine before, but I've been studying like it's my homework, and I'm absolutely ready to go for this. Just a little bit of a breakdown of what we're gonna be doing to this engine. So internals, we have main bearings at the very deepest part. So these usually start to wear at around 80,000 miles in these motors, and this motor is right at that mark. So I want to refresh it. I know it's a big job just to do it preventatively, but I really, like I said, I want this to go back on the road, and I don't want to have a single thought in my mind about it having an issue later down the road. Second thing, we have rod bearings, the thing that put us in this boat in the first place. This is a rod bearing. Actually, you know what? Let me get you a good one. This is more or less what a decent bearing should look like. This bearing has about 38,000 miles on it. This is what a rod bearing is not supposed to look like. I did some research, and it turns out that 4 and 8 rod bearings, when they go, they're the last in line to get oil. So that means somebody was probably pushing this car really hard, got it very hot, and somehow, maybe there was a little bit of oil starvation. I don't know what exactly happened, but 4 or 8 rod bearing went. I don't know which one went first, but I don't think they went at the same time. But this is not what a rod bearing is supposed to look like. See that little lip at the very top? That's what actually keeps it on the rod and not spinning when the rod spins around the crankshaft. If you look at this one, it's gone. There's a very sharp lip from it spinning around the crankshaft super fast. I'm taking every single low mileage part that had nothing to do with oil running through it, and I'm going to swap it onto this car. I'm testing the injectors to make sure that none of them are stuck and they all work properly. I'm taking this engine from the state that it's in, which is pretty good, and I'm going to try to make it above and beyond a bulletproof S65. So that
there's going to be a lot of preventative things done so that this engine stays healthy. But I almost forgot. It's time to tell you what I paid for this car.
I am really happy with the way that the M3 is coming so far. I think that motor is going to be the solution, but I did tell you that I would show you the price of what I actually paid for this car. And keep in mind, we have the title here. It's been almost a year since I've owned it, and the mileage and everything right here is actual. I have the bill of sale in this packet. I bought my 2011 M3 with 39,000 miles on it for $16,000. And I have to blur out all of that because there's a lot of personal information on there. But there we go. Let me know in the comments if you think I got scammed, if it wasn't a good deal, if I paid too much. Regardless, we're gonna be fixing it, and I will see you in the next video.